This is a short video about reaction time and self-defense, and how important I think it is to factor reaction time into your thinking about self-defense and fighting generally. It doesn't matter whether you do karate or kung fu or any self-defense or martial art, we're all unfortunately human, and so it's going to apply whatever. So Hollywood and the film industry has a lot to answer for in this regard, because every year, you see hundreds of things like this.
Wild haymaker, employ elbow block.
Fight scenes in which people can trap or catch or block punches from very close range. And stuff like this definitely feeds back into the kind of training we do as martial artists. Here is the problem. The first thing we need to know is a human's reaction time, which on average is 215 milliseconds. You can check your own on the website there. You basically tranquilize sheep as fast as you can. So we have about 0.2 seconds to react to this punch, which isn't very much time. So we also have to know how fast a punch is. Now this obviously changes depending on the punch. You could have one with a really long wind-up, or one with no wind-up at all. So obviously none of this is hard and fast. Punches tend to be measured in meters per second. A trained fighter, like our friend Ricky Hatton, will usually get between 11 and 14 meters per second. The Guinness World Record is supposedly 19 meters per second. So let's say the average person will punch at about 10 meters per second. What is about to follow is very bad physics. I know the equation doesn't account for things like momentum, so take the results with a pinch of salt. They're only going to be very approximate. All I'm trying to say is that in the time it takes for us to react to it, a punch could have travelled about 2 meters. To put that into context, here's a fight kicking off. Now for one to be able to react fast enough to the other one's punch to be able to do anything about it, I'd suggest they'd have to be at least about 2 meters apart. Now 2 meters is a long fucking way. You could fit the Klitschko brothers in there, you could fit a giant cow in there. And most importantly for us, you're very unlikely to have 2 meters between you and the person you're going to fight. In fact, it's going to be more like a meter, maybe less, maybe half a meter, maybe as little as 30 centimeters. And if somebody punches you from that kind of range, you will not be able to react fast enough to do anything about it. You have not been biologically designed, you have not been programmed to make that a possibility. Here's a pretty good example. Even if he hadn't had his hands in his pockets, there's nothing he could have done. He could never have reacted fast enough to do anything about that slap. So let's look at some things we could do if we were in this situation. You could always hit them first. As we've seen in the video, that's pretty effective, but there are a couple of problems with this. The first is obviously legal, depending on where you live, and the other is psychological. It's pretty hard to hit people, especially if they haven't hit you first. When I've been teaching self-defense, I've always been surprised at how difficult people find it to hit people. So unless you're a badass who can slap people out without a care, this isn't the perfect solution. Another solution is to bridge or to get physical contact, because your tactile reflexes are much, much faster than your visual ones. A third way is to try and block the punch before it even happens by putting your hands up in an intelligent way. So, you can put your hands up in any number of different ways, but some are better than others. As an example, if you look at both the boxer and Bruce doing his Wing Chun, they're both doing the same thing. They're both putting their hands in a place where they think it's most likely to intercept a punch. They're not using their reactions to respond to the punch, they're just getting their hands in the way. And finally, you can change the range at which you're fighting. Increasing the distance obviously gives you more time to react to whatever the person is doing. So don't fight at the range where you're relying on your reflexes, because they're not fast enough. Either move in and make contact, move out of range, or just hit them really hard. But either way, don't fight at a range you cannot defend yourself at.